Call the meeting to order of Silver Falls School District Board. All board members are present. Flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Under agenda review, I'd like to take off, looking for the number of it here, but the action item on appointing the equity committee tonight. Feeling like we have a lot of information we're going to be getting concerning that, and we'll have some questions and answers, and might be rushing it for us to be able to put that forth tonight, and so we'll push the appointment of the actual committee off to the December meeting, but have the presentation and our questions and answers tonight.
I move to take the appointment of the equity committee members off of the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to take the action item of appointing the equity committee tonight off the agenda. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any other input on the agenda? Okay. Entertain a motion for the remainder of the agenda then.
Move to approve the revised agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the revised agenda. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We should just probably discuss before we
Yes, good point, yes. Consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Been moved and second to accept the consent agenda as published. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Sorry, I misspoke. I meant to say aye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. And our student representatives. Or representative.
We're supposed to be two of us.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Maria Wacker. I am a sophomore and one of the ASB school board representatives. Today I'll be presenting on behalf of the student body as a whole. We are very excited to announce that we have begun our Tree of Giving fundraiser for this holiday season. For those who are unfamiliar, the Tree of Giving is a fundraiser event put on by Silverton High School ASB in partnership with the Zenith Women's Club and the SHS Counseling Department. We work to raise money to provide Christmas presents for youth in our community who are in need. Every donation will help us purchase clothes, toys, gifts, and essentials to make their holiday season brighter. Our goal is to raise $5,000 through fundraisers hosted inside and outside of the high school. So far to fundraise, ASB has put on a spelling bee and a bake sale. Both fundraisers went incredibly well. Ways the community members can help us reach our goal of $5,000 is by donating with our donation website and participating in our Foxathon on December 14th. Registration for this event can be found on the website. It is a 5K on our school campus that includes family fun throughout. There is a prize for the best costume that's holiday themed, and we would be grateful for your contribution. Next, we would like to congratulate our fall sports for competing incredibly hard this season. Girls soccer ended their season as league champs. They claimed this title for the first time in 34 years. We are super proud of all that they accomplished. Last weekend, cross country also competed in state, with both teams finishing in 9th place. We are super proud of our team accomplishments and their individual accomplishments. The volleyball team battled hard with their season and competed in the postseason where they left it all on the floor. Our football team continues their season. They won league champs and are battling to continue their postseason run. They have an exciting game coming up this Friday against Summit at McGinnis Field starting at 7 p.m. Tickets are $6 for students and $10 for adults. We hope to see you all there. Our clubs and activities at the high school are continuing their success through this fall season as well. Our clubs meet once a month on Tuesdays at the high school during AG and other times outside of school as well. We want to congratulate our choir team, Brooke Summers, Cal L. McElfish, Lillian Richardson, Emmert Miller, Ben McQueen, who all received different honors such as All-State and National ACDA. They are hoping to attend Honor Choir and have an event coming up on November 14th in the auditorium at 7 p.m. We also want to recognize our speech and debate team as well, who has kicked off their season successfully. They have competed in 2 tournaments and have had some great success. The next one is on December 7th at Clackamas. We are also super proud of our FFA team that competed at Nationals. We recognized them at our recent assembly, and it was great to have our entire team, including past graduates, attend. We want to make sure everyone knows that we continue to post information about upcoming events and happenings at Silverton High School on our social media pages, the Silverton High School website, and on Parent Square. We are excited about what's in store for the continuation of this school year, where our focus is to be great Foxes who exemplify our Fox values of respect, dignity, compassion, and inclusion. Thank you everyone for all your support and hard work to ensure that we have the best school year possible. Go Foxes!
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Yeah, and FFA, I understand, took second at Nationals, is that correct?
There were like 5 different groups that placed at Nationals, and we have one student who placed first, actually, in their category. So it was an amazing display. They were honored Saturday night at the FFA banquet, which was really cool. They just highlighted them in such an amazing way, and that's a really powerful program. And that was a really fun evening to watch the kids, get to show off their stuff a little bit. So that's fun.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Glad to hear it. Okay, school principal report, and we have Elise Hansen here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elise Hansen. I am the principal at both Evergreen and Victor Point, and I'm going to be presenting on both of them. They are 2 separate schools, so I have 2 different slideshows for the different schools, and we're going to start with Evergreen. I kind of wanted to just give a little bit of background information so that you kind of knew where we were last year and where we are this year. So our enrollment from last year to this year did go down by 10 students. We had some families that decided to homeschool. We had a variety of reasons. And we also did gain 2 new families this year. As far as staffing, I know it's not always a fun topic to talk about with the budget cuts, but I just wanted to give you some of our reality that we're having this year. So from a change from last year to this year, we did lose 1 teacher. Thankfully, that teacher wasn't RIF, she just retired. So we didn't replace her. So what that did was take us from a 2 grade per classroom to a 3 grade per classroom. So we are matching what Pradham has. We lost 50% of our instructional assistants at Evergreen. Last year we had 4 different instructional assistants ranging in different hours, and this year we're down to 2. And so in a 3-blend classroom or a 3-classroom school with 2 instructional assistants, time is split between the 3 classrooms. We also have a secretarial change. Last year we had a 3-hour secretary at Evergreen. This year the secretary now serves both Evergreen and Victor Point, so similar to what I do, but she is housed at Victor Point. 2 other changes at Evergreen was last year we had PE every day. Now we only have PE 4 days a week. We have a different PE teacher for our K through 2 classroom, and then our 3 through 8 classes have actually gone through 3 PE teachers this year, and I believe one of them you will be approving her contract for the rest of this year, so that's our final one for this year. We used to also have music 2 days a week, and we now have it 1 day a week. And the music teacher is also the teacher that does our littles PE, so she is doing a lot of different things. So I want to talk about the Evergreen culture. If you are at all familiar with it, you know these things will reign true. They have a very strong and rigorous academic program. There's a huge emphasis on relationships with staff and students in the community. We have extremely strong community support. This year we've had so many volunteers that have stepped up to help fill in some of the gaps that we have. We even have some of our volunteers that are coming to the high school every day to pick up our meals that are served to students at Evergreen. And then our EPTC has been super helpful with picking up anything, helping with fundraising. I'm going to talk about their fundraiser that they did. And one of the other great things at Evergreen is our attendance. We have 96% attendance, so most of our kids attend every single day. Feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions. If any of you know me, you know I'm a data nerd, so we're going to talk a little bit about data, and we're going to start with math for K through 5. We use the iReady diagnostic to assess where our kids are at. And so you will see that at Evergreen, most kids are at or above grade level, with some of them there in the 1 grade below, but typically our teachers get them up to grade level. And then we do have a couple that are 2 grade levels below. You guys ready for me to move on to middle school? Okay. Middle school uses the STAR assessment, and so theirs is broken down by levels. So level 1 would typically be 3 grade levels below, whereas a 3 is at grade level. So you will see that almost all of the kids are at or above grade level for our 6th, 7th, and 8th. This is the beginning of the year diagnostic that they took in September. So they'll take another one in January and then another one in May. We're going to talk about reading. I got it all on one slide here. Hopefully you can see it. Our kindergarten through 5th graders, they take the DIBELS assessment, and then our middle schools take the STAR reading assessment. So you'll see at the left is above grade level, and then it moves down. Our kindergarten is well below grade level, the majority is, but Mrs. Buckley does a really good job of getting our kinders up. But you will see again, most students are at or above grade level in their reading. You ready for me to move on? Okay. So we have 2 school-wide goals that I set for our staff for reading. Our K through 5 the goal is to get them from 80 to 90% by the end of the school year using DIBELS. And then for 6th through 8th grade, it was 91 to 95%. We had 2 kiddos that were not at grade level, so our goal is to at least get one of them to that line. So what are we doing to get our kids there? We utilize the district approved curriculum and provided curriculum, Wonders, guided phonics, those kinds of things. We also have district and building PLCs where we meet every Wednesday during early release. We implement 20% meetings where we look at our students in the bottom 20%, implement some interventions to try and get them up. We have care team where if we have students of concern, we bring them to care team to talk about ideas or interventions or next steps. And then our team also utilizes the projection and unit maps that the district has created. So I want to talk about some of the things that we do at Evergreen that really makes it unique and special. We have an open house / cleanup that the EPTC coordinates. We do that typically the Thursday before school starts. Parents and volunteers and family members, they come in and make it look beautiful inside and out. I'm talking pressure washing the sidewalk, the building, pruning hedges, pulling weeds, leveling gravel around the track. They clean the lockers inside to get them nice and spiffy. They'll do copying and cut anything and everything. If you make a list, they'll get it done. And so recently our parents actually cleaned up our lockers so much that they painted them to match the inside of the building, and it just looks so cohesive right now. It looks amazing down there. The one and only fundraiser that they do is a pie social. And this is really more of a community event. If you ever get to go to it, I highly recommend it. Families just bring desserts to share, and you just come and hang out. You talk, you mingle, you see kids play outside. until it's dark, well, even after it's dark out. And families just donate money. There's no obligation, there's no auction. It's just come and hang out, socialize, and donate money. We do a book character day. We did it on Halloween this year, and every kid that wants to can participate and dress up as their favorite book character. The littlest classroom gets to walk around the school and show off all of their costumes. They carry their book with them. And the 3rd through 5th grade classroom, I love what Mrs. Poole does is they actually share on their book character. They have their book with them, and they each take a turn sharing. We do have 2 school-wide assemblies a year, and if you know anything about Evergreen, there's not a place to do those. So we actually do them in there's a collapsible wall, and so we take that out, and we do one in there, and then in the spring we actually do one in the cover play shed, and we usually have guest speakers come. Mr. Murphy is kind of in charge of finding those and coordinating them. He does a great job and tries to rotate it out so it's not the same thing every year. Mrs. Poole coordinates Grandparents' Day, and I loved doing this last year. Kids get to invite a grandparent to come to school with them. They rotate from class to class. Each teacher has an activity that the grandparent does with the student, and it's fun to see all the family connections in that building. Jean Elliott, she's our music teacher this year. She has implemented Evergreen Choir that they meet once a week. Miss Cram started it last year, and so Mrs. Elliott's kind of continuing that on. And one of the other highlights I want to talk about is meals. Evergreen has never received meals before this year. And as of the 9th, we have served over 2,670 meals to students at Evergreen. So I mean, for students where there's a 68 students there, that is a lot. And I think that's something that we're really excited about. And like I said, a lot of our parents have been going to pick it up every day for us recently. So almost 1,200 breakfasts. That didn't include today, so that was as of last week, and over 1,500 lunches. So I think that is something we should really be excited about and celebrate. So the Pie Social I told you about is where the community comes together, and this year they raised over $6,300 for the school. I mean, if you think of a community where there's a little over 30 families just in the school, for them to raise that much it's amazing. I feel truly grateful going there every day with just the support that we have. And I talked about Book Character Day and Grandparents' Day. We do have lots of volunteers that also come in to help with Grandparents' Day to coordinate. They usually provide some kind of snacks as well. Any questions about Evergreen before I transition to Victor Point?
The food.
The food.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I was doing the math. Seems like over half the people are utilizing it, which is great.
Yeah.
And they don't have a kitchen, so we're dropping it off, correct?
So our parents, right now, they come to the high school to pick it up out beside the kitchen every day. And then we bring back anything left over.
Okay.
So the teachers place the order first thing in the morning. That they pick, do they want option 1, option 2, what kind of milk do they want, and then the kitchen staff here prepares it, and then our volunteers have been coming to pick it up. So yes, about half every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel, I'm ready for Victor Point, please. I should have put them all in one slideshow. Okay. So this is going to be a similar setup. I'm going to talk about staffing and enrollment. So student enrollment has gone down a little bit, but not a lot at Victor Point. We went from 212 to 207. Some of the staffing changes we have here is we did lose 1 classroom teacher. We are typically a 1 classroom teacher already per grade. So what this forced us to do was we had to split our 2nd grade. And so there was 27 in our 2nd grade, and we had to split them between 2 other teachers. So we have a 1st and 2nd grade blend and a 2nd and 3rd grade blend. So that's what that has done for us this year. The 1st and 2nd grade and the 2nd and 3rd grade are very high in numbers. Our 2nd and 3rd grade has the 2nd highest class number. Our 1st highest is 8th grade at 30. and our second, third grade blend is 29. So 29 second and third graders in one classroom is a lot right now. We have lost over 50% of our instructional assistants. Last year, we started the year with 6 instructional assistants and 1 media assistant. Right now, we have 2 instructional assistants and 1 media assistant. So we've lost quite a bit of instructional assistants, which is difficult when trying to cover all of supervision with recesses and all of those things. Same thing with music. We lost 1 day, so we now have it just on Tuesdays, 1 day a week. And then I talked about the secretarial change before. Mrs. Anderson has jumped in to be secretary of both and has just stepped up and done a phenomenal job. So similar to Evergreen, but a little bit different. Viking culture, we also have a very strong and rigorous academics at Victor Point. Strong relationships with staff, students in the community. We have had, again, numerous volunteers come in. We have grandparents that come in and read to classes. We have parents that are volunteering in kids' classes that they don't even have kids in. They're just willing to come in and support. We have parents that are willing to take projects home, cutting or gluing things, because our staff just don't have the time to do it unless they also take it home. So we have parents that are willing to take those projects home. And we also have a great PTCC that helps coordinate a lot of things and fundraise a lot of things for us as well. And they also have a high attendance of 95%. So here is our math data for K through 5. Again, this is the iReady diagnostic that was taken at the beginning of the year. So we have a lot of in the middle of early on grade level to some that are 2 grade levels below. But for the most part, very few are 3 or more grade levels below. Our kinder is actually pretty high in math this year to begin with. You ready for middle school? Okay. So again, middle school uses STAR, the STAR math assessment. And so 1 is far below and 4 is above grade level. So our 8th graders are doing pretty good. We can look at reading. So again, kinder through 5th grade uses Dibbles and middle school uses STAR. We're kind of a little all over the board on this one, but our 7th graders in reading, we have none that are well below grade level. And for 3rd grade, we have 1 student that is well below grade level.
Hey, Lisa, I have a question on this.
Yeah.
Have we been using Dibbles, or have we been using Dibbles for a while? Because I thought STAR was even kind of, for some reason, I think my daughter was even getting it in 4th grade as well.
We did use STAR for a while. When did we switch to Dibbles?
Just this year.
We used it last year.
Yeah, we didn't renew STAR this year because of budget complications. It was an additional, I think it was around 25,000.
Okay.
And so, we just didn't have the bandwidth for that, so.
No worries, it was just, not familiar with it, so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Dibbles is a universal screener, and we used both, products last year probably, would be
And
my
the
guess.
same for math as well with iReady? Or is that, we've always been?
I think
using-
iReady started last year.
Yeah, I already started with the adoption last
Mhm.
year, correct.
Sorry, Elise.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. So our reading goals for Victor Point. For kindergarten through 5th grade, our goal is to go from 52% to 60% by the end of the year. And for middle school to go from 65% to 72% being at or above grade level by the end of the year. So what we're doing at Victor Point to try and get our kids there is we utilize the district-approved curriculum, Guided Phonics, Wonders, iReady. We also have 20% meetings where we look at the bottom 20% of students. We utilize district and building PLCs. We have another district PLC tomorrow. We implement as many interventions as possible, but with having less staff, we have to get creative with how we do that. We also have a care team that meets once a month, and then we utilize the projection and curriculum maps. So some of the things happening at Victor Point, we had a pie and cake auction in September. We do monthly Student of the Month assemblies, and actually our student leadership teams are really the ones that run that, all the way to the grade level competition games. We have Girls on the Run that multiple staff do. We have a spring musical. We do an activity in the spring called Reading Under the Stars. We do OBOB, or Oregon Battle of the Books. Miss Cram does Viking Voices Choir. Our sixth graders go to outdoor school. They went 3 weeks ago and had a blast. Our PTCC does a chili feed. This year we were volleyball champs. Thank you, Andrea Puente, for coaching our girls. And we also had one male student on the team this year. And then we have middle school sports. Right now there is girls basketball. So I want to go into detail on just a couple of them. So the pie and cake auction that our PTCC coordinates, we do it the same night as our open house. What I love about this is students get to participate in a veggie contest. So they create art out of vegetables. And I've had the privilege last year and this year to go around and judge. And it's really fun to see how creative they truly get. I should have brought you guys some pictures so you could just see how creative they are. And I'll tell you, judging is really hard. I actually had to make a rubric this year to use for next year because it was too hard. Teacher and me never stops. And this year they raised over $5,500. So families donate pies or cakes. Some are homemade. Anything gluten-free to very sugary and cinnamon rolls. And we just auction them off. We have a parent that is our auctioneer. All of our sixth graders went to outdoor school this year. They went to Camp Tadmore. It's the second year that they went there. They go for a whole week. They go 4 nights, 5 days. They do all different lessons. I went and visited this year. It was really fun to see kids shooting bows and arrows. There's some really good kids doing archery, and I would not want to try that. I probably would totally miss the target. But we have some really good kids. And while they're there, their meals are all community style. The kids help serve and clean up. It's a really good bonding experience for them. Michael Timmons and Megan Learman are really kind of the ones that coordinate all of it. Michael does a lot of it, and Megan goes with them to help ensure success. And they stay there with the kids the whole week. Our Student of the Month assemblies, I talked about that. We do it once a month, in which teachers recognize one student for our character trait that changes every month. And then they also recognize a student that's made growth. And so teachers get to pick that each year or each month. And then any staff member can recognize what we call a VIKE, a very incredible kid, for being safe, respectful, or responsible. And like I said, our leadership students are really the ones that plan the assemblies. I just have to do the talking, and they do the rest with we do grade level competitions, and they really make it fun, and they do a really good job. And Stephanie Traeger has been the one leading them this year and last year. Some other things that we do is Girls on the Run. This is done in many districts in which the girls get to participate. They do run, but they also learn lessons in empowerment and decision making and kind of just being leaders. And so that 3rd through 5th grade is really crucial for them to kind of learn those skills and feel more empowerment. And so Victoria Robertson and Tasha Mandel have taken that on last year and this year. I don't know if they did it before. Last year's my first year, but they really do a good job with those girls. And then they actually will do a 5K in Portland, I think in 2 weeks. We do Reading Under the Stars, where we invite families to come. We dim the lights in the building. Some teachers will put up lights. And it's just an opportunity to come. Teachers will read to the kids, the families. There's usually food. Sometimes we get older kids to read to the students or the families as well. And we have a lot of staff that help with that and coordinate that, and I definitely wouldn't be able to do it without them. And like I talked about, we do Oregon Battle of the Books. This is a statewide thing that we do. Our 3rd through 8th graders are actually participating this year. And if I remember correctly, we have enough for 2 teams for our 3rd through 5th graders this year because we have so many students. Kelsey Reister and Melinda Denny are the ones who are coordinating that, and Melinda is actually new to Victor Point this year, and she's really just stepped in and helped pick up some of those things and just join our group and our community really well. Upcoming things, we have our fall choir concert next Wednesday, if anyone wants to come to that. We have our Student of the Month Assembly. Typically, it's last Thursday, but last Thursday this month is Thanksgiving, and no one's going to be there. And then we have our chili feed the Thursday before spring break, if anyone wants to come to that. Any questions?
No, just a comment. A lot happening, and some nice scores there. Haven't gotten there this year. Had the privilege of visiting both schools last year, and well, like all of them, it was a great visit there, and great kids, and atmosphere and everything. So, good job.
Thank you.
I'll just pass along appreciation to all the staff that are doing more with less support. I know it's challenging, so just please pass along that they're appreciated.
I'll pass that along.
For
to you.
sure.
The food service there, I didn't see any data. Is there how's participation?
Oh, that's a good question. It's also gone up. Last year, I don't have numbers on me. I could get them for you
No,
if
it's
you'd like
good.
them.
Just-
But last year, I mean, for breakfast, we typically had less than 10, and now we have about 30 a day. So all of our things have gone up. And last year, our cooks, we had a different cook last year, but the cook's hours this year has also decreased. So we're all doing less, or doing more with less. We're doing more with less. We all pick up the slack. So,
Good job.
yeah.
And breakfast is free as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is probably a driver for the
Absolutely.
increased participation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
you.
Elise.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And then we have Patrick, new graduation requirements.
All right, good evening. So I wanted to come today. I know Kim had asked if we could just update, if you're aware, with Senate Bill 3 that the Oregon legislature passed and the governor signed back June of 2023, does add 2 new course requirements, or a half credit each, one in the area of personal finance and one also in the area of higher education and career path skills. And so wanted to kind of obviously give an update of where we are at the high school to implement both of these things. The good news is we already kind of have systems in place to do this. So it's kind of a really easy pivot for us. As you're aware, Silverton High School requires, and the Silverton High School diploma is 25.5 credits. And some of that already included a half credit of personal finance for our seniors, as well as there's 2 credits that a student will get. There's a quarter each year, or sorry, a half credit each year, quarter each semester for their AG or homeroom, which includes a lot of those standards, and we kind of listed those standards in board book there for you if you want to look at them. But really, we already have those in place. We're just making sure, are we hitting each of those standards, the new standards, within our current system that we already have. The state of Oregon is using this year to provide sort of the resources and the materials within schools implementing these courses next year, and it would be a requirement for our current sophomores. So the graduating class of 2027 would need to have these, but already a student graduating when Silverton High School has these components, just making sure that we're addressing all of these standards within our current courses that we have. So nothing necessarily new, just making sure that we're meeting those so we can report those to the state. And then that way when our graduates walk across the stage, we know we have both of those things. So I guess one of those that we've kind of been ahead of that. So we've kind of been doing that already, but a lot of schools now are adding that as part of their required curriculum.
Glad we held on to that.
Yeah,
Half credit.
it's great to hear that we had it there already. So, that's good.
Otherwise, that's all we got, unless there's any questions. Awesome.
Thank you,
all.
sir.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
And I got word this afternoon, Silver Falls Education Association, they weren't gonna be making any presentation tonight. And so now we have, public, comment. And they're designed to keep presentation deliberations effective, efficient and effective. Board will not take any action in a meeting on non-agenda issues raised during the public comment period. The board may refer the issue to the superintendent for review, place it in a future board agenda, or choose not to take further action. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand to be recognized by board chair. If attending remotely, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. For the record, please provide your name and relationship to district. Each individual will have 3 minutes of speaking as a representative on behalf of a group of 3 or more. You'll have 5 minutes. A second public comment period will occur later in the meeting with specifics to discussion and action items only. Board will not hear complaints against individual district staff or board members during public comment. Please understand the board's primary role is to listen, and you'll likely not receive an immediate response. Finally, remember, we all model the way of our students and ask that you share your thoughts respectfully and in accordance with Silver Falls School District Board Decorum Agreement. Do we have anyone that would like to speak here tonight? Do we have anyone online?
We have no hands raised online at this time.
Okay. Okay. We'll move on. Administrative and staff reports. And Kim, you are up with the first.
Okay. Daniel, do you think you could pull my PowerPoint up for me? I've got some pictures on there. Yeah. Okay, so we celebrated Veterans Day at the end of last week. And that was really an exciting time. So we had an assembly at both Scotts Mills and the middle school that I attended. And it was really great to see the veterans honored, and that was a really beautiful time. And the middle school kids got to explore all these really cool military vehicles, which I thought was really neat. So that was a great way to honor our veterans. And then I asked students at the middle school to help me build a quilt of valor next year to donate to a veteran, to honor a veteran at the assembly. So hopefully, I think I have some kids signed up, about 5. So 5 sewers are gonna help me build a quilt. So, and that's what that is in the upper left-hand corner. So I think that's pretty exciting. Debbie's volunteered to help. She's my co-pilot. We had students that read beautiful poetry at Scotts Mills and sang patriotic songs. That was really cool. There were musical tributes by the choir and the band at the middle school. We had some pretty moving guest speakers. And again, about the exploration outside the military vehicles. That was really cool. That was a great time. So my superintendent goal number 1, so you asked for a goal progress update. So this was the fiscally fit goal that talked about a balanced budget for next year. And, you know, I think this is a really important goal with what the district has gone through over the past year. And so initially when Kim and I talked about this, we were gonna shoot for an ending fund balance of between 2 and 3 million. But then we got the PERS information, the updated PERS information. And so we may need to adjust that downward a little bit. We are thinking that the PERS obligation for the district is gonna be about $2.5 million. So that may impact that number. And we won't know until we see the governor's budget, what the legislature approves. But I will tell you that we are on track with what we were trying to do with the goal as far as curtailing spending in the district and the new processes or better policy following that we're doing, you know, with staff. They're doing a really good job trying to be really mindful about if they need to spend it, what they spend. And so I think some of those processes that Kim has worked really hard to put in place have been really instrumental and are helping. So we're seeing some real progress. So we scheduled a school finance class that OSBA is gonna teach next month at our work, oh no, it's this month, right? At the work session in November, end of November. And so Vince Adams will be here and he's gonna do a quick tour on roles and responsibilities, and then he's gonna go into school finance. So I think that'll be a really great training for everybody, and I think it, you know, will help us all have a common understanding of where we stand with school finance. The audit is nearly complete, and so Kim's been working really hard on that. Lots of weekends, sorry Kim. And so that's looking pretty good, so we're happy about that. We are planning to convene our budget committee early this year instead of, we normally do it in the late spring. But we think with the complications we've had over the past year and the staffing that has been reduced, that if we add anything back, we have to really be careful about how we do that and what we do. And we want to take a lot of feedback from committee members that are on the budget committee, as well as staff members. And so we want to be really thoughtful about that. So that committee will probably meet earlier rather than later. And so that's just an update for you on that.
So you're thinking like April? Or
No,
even
I'm thinking
before
like
April?
February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and meet several times and really give some, really take in some thoughtful feedback about our budget, and really, you know, be really clear and transparent about our capacity to add anything. So, you know, Kim and I have a spreadsheet going for our budget, and, you know, some of the things that Elise talked about, you know, those are district-wide. Everyone has a little bit of that in their story, right? And so how do we prioritize what we add back and make sure that it's equitable and that it serves kids, right? So, you know, with kids at the focus of everything we do, we think that's really important when we're talking about if we can add things back. So we're hopeful that, you know, we've done a good job curtailing our expenses and really keeping Kim's, I don't know how Kim keeps track of all that stuff. The numbers part of it makes me a little wonky, but she's done a great job. So I think that we're in a good place in that area.
Kim, can I have a question?
Yeah, sure, Tom.
Well, probably Kim's. On the PERS liability, you mentioned that it was $2.5 million. What was that a $2.5 million additional?
Correct.
Correct.
An increase of
It's-
$2.5 million at our current staffing level and our current salaries.
So we had budgeted a certain amount, and it got up by $2.5 million more.
This is a 25-26. If
Okay.
our current staffing and current salaries were in place as of July 1, which of course, you know, there's always changes to it, but the rate change as of July 1, using today's figures, would increase our annual cost to PERS increase by $2.5 million.
I'm just the passing comment.
We
We went over.
I'm just trying not to use bad words here. But this school
Me too.
district's feet was held to the fire because our numbers were off so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Is anybody getting upset with Salem here?
Yeah, actually, I mean, there's been some real,
Okay, my point is,
yeah, there's been
Okay.
some real discussion about the current service level and
Okay.
the need for additional funding. And so I know that, you know, COSA has met with the governor, and I actually joined a small group of superintendents that are meeting people that are more impacted than others. So depending on your district situation, so depending on whether you had a side account
Yeah.
or not, so actually districts that didn't have a side account, actually their hit was a little bit less because of how they have paid over time. And it's a really complicated
Yes.
math thing, and I had a really bad headache when we left that.
yeah, I bet.
I mean, it
bet.
was, it's definitely a business manager, district finance person
Yeah.
story. Do you want to comment more on that?
It's, it is extremely complex. We sat through about 4 hours of explanation, which is, it's fascinating, but it's overwhelming to put it all together. And there's a lot of moving parts, and you know, we asked actually Piper Sandler to help with a board presentation to help explain how rates can be affected so greatly for one district, whereas I'll just speak to Mount Angel is not as impacted as we are due to not having site accounts. So I have some phenomenal information that I'm very excited to share with you, but I also understand that there's other people that could probably put it together in a way that that is more, it doesn't get into the weeds, but makes it understand. We have saved Silver Falls School District taxpayers
millions and millions and millions of dollars by having site accounts. However, there is a very complex calculation that went into those site accounts that were established in 2003, 2004. Those are the two site accounts right now that are impacting us next year. They are set to expire, and they are expiring sooner than the actuaries originally estimated, is to put it in a nutshell.
Because they were drawn down quicker because
Yeah.
of.
This isn't just
because
us,
of
this is
staffing
across.
costs.
No, I know. I just, Kim, you mentioned something about, I've been thinking like this is a tough year. We'll get that TAN paid off and we'll be able to add that money back to the budget and increase services. And now you're saying, you're kind of going like, it's going to really impact our ability to do that next year.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I'm
we
like,
didn't.
oh my God.
Yeah,
This-
we
This
didn't
might be
know.
the new normal.
Yeah, and then we didn't know about that until just
Right.
recently.
No, I'm not upset. I'm just
Yeah.
restating what I'm trying to restate what I think I heard. And I'm just like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
well,
so.
superintendents are upset. I mean,
Yeah.
I was on the meeting with the women's superintendent group that I sit on, and there were a lot of really, there's been some really,
Yep.
people
Yeah.
that are really struggling with that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And how to manage that, because our job is already super complicated, right? And then you add, and managing a district and trying to get the district stable, and I think we have done a good job of stabilizing the district and getting things, as back to as normal as we can with the budget constraints we had. And I'm hoping that the legislature and the governor really hear us, because we are talking very loudly about how we need help. And the way we're funded isn't, it's not an easy thing to manage as a superintendent, especially when we don't get budget numbers from the state until June, and our budget's due in June. I mean, that's usually when those come in, so, final numbers. So it's just a really complicated system. I don't know how else to say, but I did want you to know that, we're shooting for 2 to 3 million, which isn't what we should have. That's still below what we should have. But we'll have to see where the governor's budget comes in.
Okay.
And when we start talking about budget, Kim and I will prepare 2 different models. We'll prepare a baseline model where the governor is, and then we'll prepare a little bit higher model where COSA tells us it may land. So COSA usually has a fairly good idea, and they give us indications of where it, like a range. And so, we usually start here, and then we advocate for more and make our case. And we have a really structured case this year that is based on high-cost disability and, the SPED cap, increasing the SPED cap. I mean, we have some really targeted things that we're going to start talking about that we need to change in the state in order to fund education so that it serves students. That's the most important part.
So in essence, I'm just walking through a scenario, and again, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here, but I just want to have a reality check here in my own mind. Let's just say we end our fund balance at $2.5 million, which is right in the middle of where we want to be in July, and then the state doesn't increase funding adequately. Those reserves then could, in essence, be wiped out because we have a $2.5 million obligation with PERS.
We won't budget that way. We'll budget with the PERS, with the higher rate, and we'll be conservative about how we budget.
But in essence, if we've saved $2.5 million for the ending fund balance, that's going to impact how we budget going forward and adding people back and adding heads back and adding
Yes.
assistants to our
Yes.
students back.
Yes.
I mean, it could,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
curtail that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bingo.
it does impact what we can add back and what we can do, correct? Yeah.
So while we're on this, I just got 2 questions. Okay, when is the biennium? When do we find out what these numbers are gonna be? I'm just trying to plan ahead.
June.
When is June?
End of
We will have our budget prepared before we will have figures from the state.
And that leads me to my next question. I called Phil one night, and I was filling out my ballot, and I got all frustrated because I was thinking about school funding. And I was like, well, how can we advocate? Like, I feel worthless half the time up here because there's not a whole lot I feel like we can do. And as a board member, and you had mentioned like, well, maybe Anthony would know. Like, what can we do as board members to advocate to our state? I mean, we can call a representative, but I almost feel like the superintendents have louder voices than we do as board members.
What we're talking about is what kind of effective lobbying can we do?
Yeah,
Who
I
do
think
call?
that, I think that would be a good question. Vince is here in 2 weeks, and I would ask him from an OSBA lens, what your role should look like as a board member and how you can support superintendents in the very organized work that we are doing around funding. I will say, I haven't seen anything like this, and I haven't been a superintendent very long, but some of my colleagues have been in for 20 years, and they're like, this is a real serious effort to try and change, the narrative around how schools are funded. It's going to be really important work that we're doing. So I will, I'll get more information
We
for you on
figured
that.
Tony might have experience from teachers' practices days that might be helpful to push on to us too, as far as how we might be effective, so.
Yes, I've sat through several biennium budget cycles, created statewide budgets, and I guess I do have the
Yeah.
privilege of being able to work with people from across those different organizations, OASBO, the Oregon Personnel Service Administrators, as well as COSA and the School Boards Association. So, and I already have my list of little items to of course, coordinated with Kim, of items to think about some testimony for when we get to the session. Because in addition to the hard costs, which is what Kim and Kim talk about, we also have to think about all the, what sometimes we call the soft costs, which means all the policy packages and language that comes in that end up creating budget implications on the back end, right?
That we don't
They're
even
the
know about
unfunded
now.
mandates, as we call
Unfunded
them, right?
mandates, yeah. That's our third major point under the besides the current service level and so that's a work in progress. We'll keep you posted, but.
Josh, just from my experience, that those organizations, when they want us to contribute, they'll make opportunities and let us know. Like when they passed the what did we call it?
Student Success Act.
Student Success Act. That was, I know that Tom and I both participated in opportunities to go to the legislature and reach out. So I'm assuming that kind of thing will happen again. But I guess we'd have to see. Question I have for you is, do you have association liaison meetings set up? Do you meet with the
union?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, we have communications meeting, yes.
I'm assuming
regularly.
that is on the agenda or will be on the
Yes.
agenda. Yeah, it just seems like if we're going into negotiations, that's gonna be we need to create some common understanding around that in
yeah.
order to not have surprises.
Yeah, no, we will be very communicative regarding that with the union, both groups. Okay, so let's see here. So my second goal was around communication, and you have a couple things in your board packet. So I included a communication log, which is a 6-page document that has all the meetings and different community connections I've made over the past months since I've been here. Also included all my Parent Square communications that have been sent out by my office. Communications team from the ESD helps and is helping with updating the district website. So we are trying to make it a little more streamlined, a little easier to manage. And so Kelly Scott's working on that, and she's doing an excellent job on that. We have regular communications regarding special events. And she's managing, trying to broadcast a positive narrative about the district and talking about the really cool things that are happening inside our buildings. And so she's doing a lot of different kind of reporting on different things. I also included all the communications that went out from the district office regarding the election. And I will say that, the high school team and the middle school team, specifically because they have large groups of kids, they did a really good job managing the election. We had no major issues I don't know that we even had any small issues, really. It was pretty seamless and pretty quiet, and that was how we liked it. And the kids were really respectful. I have one small parent complaint that I dealt with, but that was really it. It was very, very minor. So we feel like that communication and all those supports that we provided staff was probably pretty helpful. And then just that collaboration that we talked about with other leaders in the city and in the area, partners at COSA and OASBO and OSBA and all those different things that superintendents do to try and move our work forward. And then my last goal is our organizational management. And so I believe we talked about this earlier, but I think our staffing is as stabilized as we can get it, although we're still doing some minor tweaks with SPED assignments and different things so that we can make sure we have good coverage for students and serve our students to the best of our ability. Division 22, I submitted that with ODE today. There is one additional area over what I showed you last time where I believe we're non-compliant after we did the report for teacher evaluation for ODE, and it showed that not all of our teachers have been formally evaluated over the past 2 years. So Tony's had an excellent plan to fix that, and we're working towards compliance on that. I think part of that was due to the budget issues that we had and the, a little bit of turmoil towards the end of the year, and some of those things didn't get wrapped up like they should have. So, and administration's meeting to determine our priorities for the upcoming school year. We actually did that today. We had a really interesting meeting where we have so many things that we're talking about right now that we really felt like we needed to hone in on a couple of things as a team. And I think we determined that we're lacking direction because we don't have a strategic plan anymore. So our strategic plan expires in 2024. It's up at the end of the year. And large portions of that plan were devoted to guaranteed viable curriculum and to the bond, which, we're not working on either of those projects anymore. So even though I know that I didn't express that I was gonna manage the strategic plan this year, I think it's important to the admin team and to the teachers that we start talking about that and getting a better, clearer, more defined direction based on staff, community, student, and administrator input and school board input. And so I think that, we have to do the integrated planning anyway for the student investment account grant through ODE. And I think that's an excellent opportunity to kind of combine those two processes and take some really great feedback, craft some surveys, have some town halls, and just get out there and start meeting with people and see where they think the district should go. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions on the
Sure.
Division 22, starting with the human sexuality education piece. It talks about, we're looking at the development of that. Where will that be posted for parents to be able to go and take a look at that information?
Yeah, so I looked at so there's 3 curriculum providers that ODE has said are approved in the state. So it's really a limited amount of providers that actually are approved through their system. And so I've called all 3 providers, and I have samples of curriculum coming so that we can look at it. I met with the nursing staff the other day, and they were super helpful, willing to teach those lessons if teachers are uncomfortable doing it. And then we also talked about a really strong opt-out program for families that aren't comfortable with us teaching that kind of content to their student, because there are folks in our community that are not comfortable with that, and we know that. And so in order to be compliant with the law, we need to move forward and use the new standards and put some new curriculum in place. But providing a support system for people that don't want us to teach that to their students, maybe providing them some curricular supports to use at home, like a to-go bag, with some stuff in it that they could utilize to help teach that at home, because sometimes you just don't, you don't know exactly what you should lay out. And just, so we've been talking about some of those things, like how to make it so that it fits our community, but that is still compliant with the law. So Debbie had some great ideas. She and I brainstormed the other day, and I've been talking to the admin team, because we don't want families to feel like they don't belong in Silver Falls. We want to make sure that everyone feels like they belong here, and so we're trying to craft a system that serves everybody and makes everybody feel welcome, and we don't want anybody to feel like they don't belong. So just being really mindful about how that is presented to folks. And so there will be a lot of opportunity for community and parents to weigh in
Okay,
as
great,
we do
thank
that.
you. I'm just kind of looking at the out of compliance ones, and then in regard to the charter schools, it looked like there was some counseling staff. Is that coming out of our budget, or that'll come out of the charter schools budget?
That would come out of the charter school budget, so that is, from what I see in our contract, I don't see a counseling provision that we provided. So I need to meet with them, Derek, and talk to them more about that. You know, I talked to Community Roots, and they told me they didn't have a counselor on staff, and so I said, well, it'd be really good if we could, you know, figure out a way to get that covered. So we will work with them on that. I haven't met with them yet, but I do need to report it now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think there was one more.
How does that work for them? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If, I'm still trying to understand the relationship of charter schools in our district and kind of how the authority, or, I'm wording that inappropriately, but essentially where does the buck stop when it comes to some of these? So if they're out of compliance and we find out about it, are we on the hook for that? Are they on the hook? How does that actually work between the two entities?
That's a great question. So we are, the district is the umbrella. So we're kind of over the top of the charter schools. They're kind of underneath us. And I am responsible. I am ultimately responsible for what they're providing for students. So, you know, you're supposed to have one counselor for every 250 students. And so, you know, I need to talk to their administrators and try and figure out a plan for that. But yes, we are ultimately responsible for that. And we do have a contract renewal with them this year. Like, they will come present to you, and their contracts are for renewal. And so through that process, I think it would be a good time to clarify that and get it fixed so that we're compliant. Because I think, you know, as we're talking about student health and mental health, I think that's really important right now. And I know they do a great job serving students, but that could be an extra element that really helps that student that's struggling. So I think that would be a good thing to talk further about. We actually have a meeting with them next week, I think, or you and I have a meeting to talk.
Internal planning.
Yeah, so that's kind of, we're working on that right now.
Another one, the teacher training related to dyslexia, looks like we're out of compliance with that as well. So is that something we'll be looking at, and is there a cost associated with that?
There is, yeah, there's several providers. So when you go on ODE's site and you look on their dyslexia section, there's several providers that provide that training. And I actually have reached out to Barb Steinberg of PDX Reading. Barb is an expert on the science of reading, but she also has a really great dyslexia training, and she can do it digitally or she can do it in person. And so I would like to see all of our K-5 teachers that haven't been trained be trained in that. I think it's really important for supporting students that are struggling with reading, and it is state law. So yeah, we'll either do it this spring, try to get it in at some point if we can fit it in somewhere. I think it's longer than our release time, so it seems to me like it's 4 or 5 hours, so it's probably something we'll need to do it in service in August.
Kim, do you know roughly what percentage of our students are impacted by dyslexia?
Oh gosh, is Brandon here?
That's a difficult number to pin down. I mean, we don't diagnose dyslexia. I mean, we have a lot of students that get an outside diagnosis or get services for dyslexia from an outside provider, and then they'll provide our SPED staff or school staff with that information. But I don't have a number.
Kim, I wanted to say thank you for how you worded kind of what you did. We were talking about, you know, some of these complicated subjects regarding, you know, human sexuality education. I think you said you want to make sure everybody feels welcome. I want to make sure we have that. I think that's a really good way to word that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. We got to find a way to get into the middle. You know, I've talked about that before, and I think, you know, really thinking about, you know, the angst or that causes some people really anxiety about it, and I don't want that. I want to be able to say, I have a system for you. This is what we created. We'll take your input on it. Like, how can we help serve you that helps your students, even if you teach it at home?
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other burning questions?
No, I just want to say agree belonging is super important, and
Yeah.
I also appreciate the way you worded that, and you the way you talk about it is so easy, and it gives me confidence that it's genuine and coming from a really organic place, so.
It is
thank you.
part of my fiber, yes. Thank you. Okay, I think that's, at the next board meeting, I'm gonna talk about, our math scores, so I'm working on some data for that. I'm gonna give an integrated plan update, and then the next upcoming policy meeting is December 4th, right? Yeah, we put it on a Wednesday, so hopefully Josh can come.
Yep.
This time, so December 4th. Okay. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, state scores?
No, we moved that to December, Phil.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I do have a quick update on Robert Frost. So the survey was completed on October 28th, and we're just waiting to get it back. I'm not sure what the holdup is, but they were out there on the site. So I will check in with them tomorrow and kind of get an update on that. That's what we need to finalize the partition, and then we'll move into the next phase. So it's been done. I just don't have a copy of it yet. So.
Okay, Equity Committee, Jennifer, come on down.
Good evening. So we are talking about implementing an educational equity committee for Silver Falls. That was House Bill 732, passed a bit over a year ago, and the implementation of this was supposed to begin last February. So we're a little behind, but we're going to get caught up now. So I had sent to you guys the synopsis of what the ODE directive is for an educational equity committee. That's got a little bit more information, but I'll give you the high points this evening. And also in that attachment are links to the full guidance from ODE if you're interested in looking at that a bit more. So essentially, the Equity Committee is meant to help school leaders identify what helps or hinders the success of students who in our system have historically been excluded, marginalized, impacted, or underserved. There are basically 3 requirements for that committee. One requirement is to advise on the impacts of policy and practice decisions. One is to inform on school climate and the experience of underserved student groups. And then the third is that at least one member of the equity team must serve on the budget committee. So timely that we're having this conversation today. So I'm not sure, I know we're ready to finalize budget committee tonight maybe, so that will just have to be part of the conversation. And then recommendations, in addition to the requirements, would include a standing agenda item to discuss potential issues that the board would like feedback on from the Educational Equity Advisory Committee. So that might look like you have some things coming up in the next meetings, and you might say, we'd like some equity advisory feedback on this topic, and that team would come to the next meeting prepared to offer their feedback after having done their part of those conversations and information gathering. And then a yearly district equity report that's filed with ODE would be a yearly recommendation, but is not a requirement at this time. Okay, so then the makeup of the budget committee, or how we form this, or not the budget committee, just the equity advisory committee. So that committee is selected by the board and the superintendent. It is to include parents, employees, students, and community members from our district who have been or might currently be in those marginalized groups, or whose skill sets or lived experiences would give them the appropriate insight to weigh in on these tasks that ODE has set forth. So we started the process by asking for nominations for the equity team. ODE recommends 8 to 10 people on this advisory committee. And I think we had 14 people volunteer to be a part of that committee. So you have that information to consider, and then you will appoint who you want those 8 to 10 people. Now, the 8 to 10 is a recommendation, so if you want to go smaller, you can. If you want to go larger, you can. But the recommendation is 8 to 10 for, you know, efficiency. So that's the highlights of it. What questions do you have?
I just have to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. So it sounds like if there was an issue, like you mentioned, that the board wanted to get perspective of the equity committee, that's like another layer of organization and planning that has to happen, because I'm assuming that the equity committee would need to get the same like information that we get in board packet kind of thing, and have time to talk about it and then report back. Am I getting that right?
I'm not sure that they need the information on that level, because we're looking for really a different perspective than in a different role than you would have. So what would be an example? Get
like,
one.
say if Bond's coming up, say, what am I missing on this? How would this affect this community? Or like anything coming up with like the groups that maybe we might be overlooking?
Yes.
Is that
yes. Yeah.
essentially-
Yeah. So attendance policy comes to mind. That's a conversation currently, right? Attendance rates statewide, maybe nationally, haven't tracked nationally, for sure statewide, are really down, right? So conversations are, how do we correct this attendance rate? So one of the conversations is, if kids are staying up all night playing video games, right, then they're going to come in on Saturday and make up time. That's a pretty common, strategy. And that maybe is an appropriate strategy for kids who are choosing to stay up all night and play video games. But also we have kids who families are 2 months behind on their rent and are on the verge of power shut off, or power is already shut off, there's no hot water in the house, parent has to go to work, kid is sick, can't go to daycare, older kid needs to stay home and watch the kid, or parent can't work and they don't get paid. That's a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so a blanket attendance policy of, if you miss, this many days, you will come in on Saturday and make up the time. Like, we need to have that extra perspective of, but wait, like, what are the unintended consequences of that for our underserved populations? That would be one example.
Yeah, I guess I still think that they would probably need to know the meat of what we're considering in order to be able to comment on it. So it just seems to me that
it makes you wonder how we're, by just a heading, what you're saying, we may have an agenda, but it may not give enough information that might pique the interest of the equity committee, or, the need or want of their input.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how logistically do you see that working?
So it doesn't necessarily have to be an existing agenda item or an agenda item you'd have anyway. You could just ask that committee to say, can you give us a quarterly kind of take the temperature of school climate for these populations? What is the student experience in these populations? What things are you hearing and seeing? And then that might prompt you to say, ooh, let's have an agenda item on that, because that was not even on our radar yet. But, unfortunately, when we have the majority population, making decisions, we have blind spots. So this is just one of those ways for ODE to shore up that, some of those blind spots and give that different perspective.
Yeah, I'm totally supportive. The example that you gave is perfect. One of the things that I do in my job day to day is have conversations with kids who are tardy, and why are you tardy? And some kids are staying up too late playing video games, and some kids are working, and those are the ones that, I don't have a whole lot of advice to give the kid that's working on how to get here on time, because I don't have a solution for that. And so I guess it's just really important to realize that the standard experience isn't the experience for everyone.
Right. And this is just to help us see, like all school leaders, get a little bit of insight into what that student experience is for people who generally don't have a voice. These are not generally people who are showing up at board meetings and or stopping you on the street and giving you this kind of input.
Well, and I just think it's wonderful that you've been tasked probably to do this work.
I knew she'd be good at it.
Yeah, because it was, seriously, the kids you brought to us, I don't know, it was a year and a half ago, they're the boy who told us just what was what about, what he felt about some kind of policy or practice that we had, and it was just like, We need to
I
hear
think
that.
it was cold sandwiches for the kids in detention, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
yeah, food. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And that's the kind of stuff that we need to hear, and that I just think it's a really valuable perspective.
Yeah.
Because this is aimed not so much at solving individual, like this student's tardy problem, but more like
Policy.
if there's a policy or a practice or something
Getting in
that
the
we're
way.
doing that is causing a barrier, problem for a group of students that might kind of share that same thing.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
assigning detention carte blanche for kids who are tardy isn't going to solve anybody's problem. I mean, it's going to solve some people's problems, but not everybody's going to create a barrier.
Right. People who it's within their control to get to school on time, it will solve the problem. That will be incentive for them. But people who it's not in their control, then we need to have a different conversation about that. One example I thought from years ago, so it doesn't put anybody on the spot, is remember Silverton High School used to be open kind of all hours, right? As long as there was a custodian on duty, the commons and the gym area and the locker room were open. And many years ago, that started to be locked, like when coaches left and then doesn't reopen. I think currently it's 7 or 7:30, somewhere in there. That makes total sense from a safety and supervision standpoint. Also, it excludes kids from being able to participate in sports if they live like way out and have to ride the bus home and they don't have transportation back, right? They can no longer stay and hang out there. It excludes kids who were showering in the morning at the high school before the other students arrived. Now they can't come shower in the morning because they don't have access to that. So before we make decisions like that, of we're gonna lock doors because we don't want to pay somebody to supervise that, let's just have let's look at it through the lens of who else that might impact and what the unintended consequences of that might be. Because, high schoolers, if they can't shower, they stop coming to school. So that creates an attendance barrier. What's that?
I have a story on this one about just my blind spots growing up at the high school. Always thinking about those kids that were there super early, like late, like, man, they're weird. And then Brett Davison told me, Josh, he's like, do you know why they're there early? Because they don't get fed at home, and they don't want to go home for what they have to experience at home. So they try to stay at school as long as they possibly can. I'm an idiot. So like this kind of work you're doing helps me to not be so oblivious to, I don't have to live that life, but they do. So I at least need to be sensitive to it.
Yeah, we just don't know what we don't know. And I think just that whole high school experience of getting to go to the pep rallies and attend the sporting events and cheering on your team, there are whole populations of kids that don't have that opportunity because of our policies around building use, right? So is that fixable? I don't know. But it's worth a conversation, right? To say before we say we're kicking everybody out at 4 and the doors lock, like what does that do? Who does that impact? And how does that change some students' experience?
Yeah, and we can't be perfect. We cannot offer everything to everybody, but I think what you mentioned, like, let's have the conversation first so that we know.
Right.
And I also wonder if this equity committee could also inform operation, like we're talking about policy kinds of things, but a lot of things we've been talking about are operational. Like this body will never talk about detention. That's not something that we will talk about, but it's something that you will talk about probably.
Yeah, we're talking about it right now. We're talking about a different behavioral framework that was 90% of the way completed in 2022, but it was never fully adopted. And rejuvenating that, and that would be a great thing for that equity team to take a look at and to put that lens on it and see if it is an equitable practice and a good change for the district.
A couple logistic pieces of this. One you mentioned, Jennifer, considering budget committee. When I read what it talks about there, if we have a budget committee that's in place and we don't have a member on there, then the next time there is a vacancy, a member from the equity team should be asked to
Correct.
be on it. So,
Yeah, and
so we'll be able to comply with that.
Yeah.
piece.
So depends on where you consider us starting.
We're putting our budget committee together to filling it out tonight. And so then I assume we have committee members that they're expired next spring?
Yeah,
Is that
I believe.
correct?
Yeah, maybe.
And so.
I need to double check
Yeah,
the
Kim will
schedule.
double
but-
check.
So
I
it's your
did
thought.
check with the attorney, and because the equity team is not required to meet until fall of 2025, and a school group our size, 10,000 and above should already have it in place and should already be operating, but anybody below 10,000 students had until, ours was like a little bit delayed, a little off. And so we have a little more time to put the equity team together. And if you guys, there are a lot of applications in there, and I mean, you could take a little more time, read through those, and maybe vote on those in the next meeting, maybe, to give us a little more time to talk more about it, if you want.
And I'm thinking also, I'll just throw this out there, I know talking to a couple board members, but that's not all of us. But it mentions here, you know, a recommendation from the superintendent for the committee, and if we would be better served by your office having, you know, put together 8, 10, whatever
Recommendation.
decided, this group and then we've already got the spreadsheet and everything, and then we would look at that and then say, yes, yay or nay, basically, on your committee.
Okay, so
that
you want me
put
to
together.
put
Yeah,
together a
The
recommended
way I
list?
read
I'd
it, that's
prefer
kind of
that.
the intent, and I think
Sure.
we, as far as expertise, you know, as a whole, that we'd, some of us would feel that that would be the way to go there.
Yeah, and I think we would still, you know, we would have that team put together in December.
Yeah.
We're, you know, I think we'll be fine if we do that.
Right.
And
So-
then, yeah.
I know, I appreciate
And
it.
we'll
'cause-
have, yeah, we will have 4 vacancies June 30th for budget committee for,
Okay,
One of the upcoming-
For
so at
25,
that
so it'll
point,
be
we'll
fine.
be easily able
yeah,
to
they'll be able to fill one of those.
ask this committee, those members, one of them to serve.
Yeah, and it might be good to check and make sure I mean, I might follow up with them and make sure they're willing to serve in that capacity as well if they're on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a consideration.
Yeah.
It's an extra
That
level.
would actually play into the whatever rubric of my ranking system, so just ask them, if you could, this is just, you know, just a request. If you can find out who of that list you already have would be interested in serving on that, that would help me kind of re-rank maybe some of my picks.
Sure, no problem.
And I just wanted to make a comment, like, I think, was it equity committee? There's some committee that we were asked a long time ago when I was serving. I think Tom and I were probably the only people. And we ended up talking about individual people at the board table, and that's really awkward.
Yeah.
That's no good.
Well,
So
that's-
I really appreciate
Yeah.
like having a package that,
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
can,
Well, especially this larger committee.
Yes.
For us to try to put it together here in a meeting.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
not efficient.
Kind of unwieldy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I will work with Jen on that. I'm sure we can
Okay.
get a list together for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Anybody else have any more questions?
I just want to say thank you. I know how much you love those kids in that building, and I'm so glad you're here.
All of the kids and all of the buildings.
I know.
You as well.
You were great. You raised me well, Jen.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank
you,
you.
Ms. Hannah.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, Kim Dowd, you're up next.
Well, thank you very much. You know, before jumping into, you know, the financial details, I actually loved that Elise shared the meal counts for Evergreen. That really hit home for me, and I thought, you know, I think it's important for you to hear what your vote to adopt the community eligibility program for our students this year has done. So I ran latest numbers while we were sitting right here, and through November 12th in the 23-24 school year. So last year to date, our students had been served about 71,000 meals last year. To date this year, That 71,000 has grown to over 106,000.
Nice.
Wow.
Your decision to implement this has, I'm sitting here seeing almost 50% more meals. I'm shocked that the number is actually that high. I hadn't looked in a couple weeks. I've been working on some other tasks, but I want to make sure you as a board hear that, and that you can feel what your decision to adopt that has done. So that feels phenomenal. And seeing that number, I just want to publicly thank our food service team and our principals and our volunteers that are helping get meals delivered. Our district office staff have been delivering meals every day for about 6 weeks now, taking turns rotating that. We are working out some logistics with the satellite program, but you know what, seeing that many kids are having free breakfast, no cost breakfast or lunch, you know, that just felt like you needed to hear that tonight. So thank you.
Kim, before you go on, I think I know from the way your demeanor, but you know, we had talked about when we were deciding on that vote, we needed kind of a certain level of participation to be financially feasible. Are we at that target or above kind of where we need to be, or we still need to do more?
I need to do more analysis. I was analyzing it week by week, the first few weeks of the year, and there is still a cost to operating our program. I will not say that our costs are being covered. I don't have that figure. I will work on getting an update on that of if we are reducing our subsidy amount by increasing these numbers. So I will definitely work on that. I think it feels a lot better to know that every student has an opportunity, though, to have a meal. So if we are subsidizing, at least it's something that's available to all, and we're not subsidizing while some families are still having to pay. So, but I will absolutely work on getting an update on that. Feels great. So,
Sorry
yes,
to
Josh.
interject on Kim, but I wanted to share this with you because I did not know this, and I got told this night about this food service. So not only were the kids able to, say, get all access to food, by approving that, it changed our ranking of how the federal government ranks for like serving kids in need, which then therefore took our E-rate up a lot.
It did.
So instead of getting paid 60 cents on the dollar, we get 80 cents for our technology.
Correct.
So not only did the food service provide for kids, it also gave us more spending back from the federal government back to
Correct.
us, which was like, that's huge. So it's like almost like it might balance itself out.
There are benefits with the community eligibility program. We did find out that it did increase our E-rate reimbursement to 80%. The E-rate program is a federal program in which we can complete certain infrastructure upgrades. A lot of times it's along cabling, wiring, that sort of thing. And traditionally, we would be reimbursed at 60 cents on the dollar for those projects. With the community eligibility program and how it changed our, there is an acronym and I'm not gonna, but how it changed our student identification figure, yes, we now receive 80 cents on the dollar back. So we are absolutely looking to determine, although there is not a lot of funding, what are the projects that we must do that could fall within this E-rate program to make sure we are maximizing every system out there that we can.
Thank you.
Title I, we have not heard our updates on that, but it is the feedback I've received from other districts is that if you see an E-rate increase, you should also see a Title I percentage increase. So that would, my understanding is that would not impact our 2024-25 Title I allocation. However, it could increase our percentage as it applies to future allocations at whatever level those may be. So, yeah, but thank you. So moving on to financials, if there's nothing else on the meal service right now, I want to expand on some of Kim Kellison's updates to you. The audit update, as she shared, I want to extend a huge thank you to the business services team. Obviously, a job extremely well done. The audit has gone extremely smoothly, and on Friday I got an email that they believe they have everything they need, and they have sent it to the next level for preparation of the financial statements, and it will be going through the process with the auditors, and that has been a huge relief. There were a lot of moving parts, as you know, in the 23-24 budget, or financials, and it feels very good to be where we are with that. I'm going to speak a little more to that here in a minute. Also wanted to update you on the tax anticipation note, the TAN payment that will be happening at the end of December. We will be paying back the entire $4 million. That money is already set and ready to go. That is a huge relief, and feel very good about that. So moving on to the financial reports that are available on Board Book for you. As Kim alluded to you, I really want to emphasize that I have some really feeling very positive, and we are seeing the incredible efforts that every staff member is putting in, and we are seeing that pay off. And I want to be clear that in no way am I trying to downplay the incredible lift that everybody is doing, and everybody is covering many tasks. However, our financial report today is much, certainly positive. On the revenues page, there has not been a lot of movement, and I wouldn't say anything out of the ordinary or anything has changed from what we anticipated, other than I would like to point out one of the very bottom lines, 5,400, the projected beginning fund balance, which is our ending fund balance, of course, for 23-24. When we built this budget for 24-25, we had hoped to have an ending fund balance in 23-24 of $1 million. That's what's in the budget. Now that the audit is at the point it's at, I feel confident letting you know that we believe we are going to have an ending fund balance 23-24 of $1.6 million, almost $1.7 million. That, in essence, is almost a $700,000 positive revenue, if you will, in this current 24-25 school year. And that is due to a lot of sacrifice that a lot of people made. I will be clear, some of that is due to some expenses that we did expect to go out in the 23-24 school year that did carry forward into 24-25. We've accounted for those on our expenditure report, but I am very pleased that we are coming in with an ending fund balance above what was budgeted. The next page on your expenditure side, again, very positive news that we are projecting our expenditures to come in under budget. We are very early in the year, so this is, of course, projections based on the information available to us at this time. But right now we're projecting expenditures could come in as much as $1.1 million under what we've budgeted. And that possibly could, that news could even improve as we go on. So at the bottom of that revenues page, you can see that I am estimating potentially the 24-25 ending fund balance potentially could be in the $1.9 million range. We budgeted a $1 million ending fund balance for 24-25. So if we can enter into 25-26 with a ending fund balance above $1 million, then we are doing well at staying on track and preparing for some of the additional unanticipated expenses. And I shouldn't say unanticipated, but specifically the PERS announcement, that is difficult news. We have to remember we do not have a $4 million bill in 25-26 that we have to pay back. So that is one positive. We are going to continue to work with our associations. The superintendent group is a phenomenal group that Kim's part of and is really advocating to help get schools as much support as they can. So really really want people to hear, and our staff especially to hear, that we are on the right track, and we know it's extremely difficult. But this, I think, I apologize, I can't remember which board member said this last year, but I think we're beginning to get a couple chapters into one of the best comeback stories there is. And that's due to a lot of dedication by a lot of people. So I will be clear, we do not have our updated state school fund estimate yet for this year. Our enrollment is static with last month. We are up 1 from last month. However, it is significantly down from last year. And so depending upon the enrollment throughout the state and the rebalancing of the state school fund, that information will come to us probably within the next month.
And we had we had a couple positive gains. So, you know, initially when we first started talking about budget, we thought we were going to lose the high school success fund, $100,000 of it, roughly. And that came back into the picture. So the governor went to the board and the emergency board and petitioned to have that returned to districts, and that has been returned to us. So that, I mean, there's some positive things that have happened to help us, you know, achieve that higher figure. But there could be other things that pop up. I mean, it's very difficult to predict it down to the penny. So it's good to have a little wiggle room.
Just a thank you, I know, for Kim Dowd and everyone else that's been working on these financial statements that we're getting on a more regular basis are greatly, greatly appreciated. And I think it's also beneficial for our public in a very easy to read format. You can go line by line by line and see where we're at currently and kind of where the projections are at. So, you know, even for people that aren't in the room, if they have, you know, a free moment, they could easily pull this up and be like, hey, I have a question, and reach out. So I know it's a lot of work, but it's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you for that feedback. We want the public to know where their taxpayer dollars are going, and we want them to trust that every decision is being made with, you know, the long-term financial stability of Silver Falls in mind. And you know, what we are here to serve, and I appreciate that feedback, and we take any additional feedback that you may have.
This is phenomenal news. You know, it's hard news because it's a lot of hard work, but I talked to a lot of people in both Kim's and then district office. I think we get a lot of grace and collateral from our staff right now because they know you guys care. And if you guys didn't care or show the level of compassion you'd have, I think we'd have a lot more issues. I am so grateful for you guys and how you guys are going about your business, because I know these teachers are really up against it, but because they know you guys care, it matters a lot. So
Yeah, we
I
do
think
care
a lot of
deeply.
this is because of you guys, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for that. Makes me feel good.
Can I ask a question about the revenue side? There is a parentheses, that's why I always look for the parentheses, right? For tuition from individuals in other districts. Can you just give us a brief explanation about that
So
line?
yes, so on the revenue side, so this is the wonderful world of accounting. On the revenue side,
Seems
parentheses are
backwards.
what you want to see.
Okay.
That means we have revenue projections that are exceeding the budget. So in that situation, we currently have signed agreements with other districts who are utilizing our programs, and they are paying tuition for their students to attend our schools. Conversely, we have students that we pay other districts tuition. There are oftentimes specialized programs that are very difficult for one district to have, but if one district can specialize in program A and we can specialize in program B. So what that is we had come up with an estimate based on the best information we had available at the time back in May and June when we built this budget. And based on our current agreements, I am projecting that we should see about $290,000 throughout this year. That is actually less than we have signed agreements for, but at times students will change and may not remain for the entire school year. So I did intentionally reduce that projected revenue because if it comes in a little bit higher than we're good. If it came in lower and not everything comes in lower, we run up against difficulties. So that, the parentheses are good. So unfortunately, the numbers without parentheses are the ones we're not as excited about on here. So that is the piece. So yes, we are projecting potentially state school fund not to be where we originally budgeted. As I'd shared when we built the budget, our projection from the state was one number, and unfortunately, the projection that came out in late June after our budget was adopted was $540,000 less. And so that is before any enrollment adjustments. So again, even with all of these adjustments in here, we are at this point projecting revenue could come in $740,000 above budget. That bottom number in bold on total, total resources, I apologize. I was on my wrong row. Total resources, I'm projecting revenue could come in about $19,000 under budget. It's the non-state school fund revenue that is coming in above what was budgeted. Lots of moving targets, and we will continue to update you as information becomes available. So.
Good.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And now enrollment?
Yeah, on the enrollment slide there, we are up 1 over last month. I did just notice that our prior month total column on there actually did not calculate correctly, but last month we were at 3,630 students. This month we're at 3,631, so we are happy to be holding steady at this point in the year.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Kim.
Thank
for
you.
all the information. It's very helpful. Okay, now discussion items for our budget committee applicants. And so I believe most of them are here, and we were going to have each one speak to us. Is that the understanding? And talk to them, and then afterwards we'll decide. There's 5 of them, and we'll decide on the 3 that will be placed on the budget committee. So, Creighton Helms. Come on down.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, school boards, Allison, everybody else that's in attendance. I recognize we're running late into the evening, and so I will try to abbreviate what I did want to share out of respect for everybody's time. I first want to just express my appreciation for your consideration for this placement. I recognize that being a member of a district's budget committee in any context carries a lot of significance, and it's something to be done with a great deal of consideration. However, as an educator myself, as a prior member of, an emergency member of this particular committee, and as somebody that's at least ancillarily familiar with the climate of the budget of the school district right now, I truly respect the position that's being sought after, and I appreciate your consideration. I recognize that it can be awkward to kind of share your resume, and I've already done this before the board in the past. And so I welcome questions if you have it. I carry a doctorate in education and leadership and a certificate in school management and leadership, the latter from Harvard Graduate School of Education, a master's of science in homeland security, public health preparedness, a master of arts in teaching, secondary science, biological sciences, and a bachelor of arts in international leadership from the United States Coast Guard Academy. Prior to my career in education, I was an officer in the Coast Guard. Most of my work was done in counter-narcotic interdiction missions on the U.S.-Mexico maritime border, and then in intelligence operations in the Pacific Theater, both of which of those oftentimes carried the management of figures that carried well into the 10-figure range. I'm currently the Director of Student Services and Federal Programs for the Jervis School District. Within that, I oversee, with the exception of our state school fund, just about every major funding source for the district, all of our title funds, our IDEA, all of our special funds. I'm the department director for 10 departments within our district, which includes special education, English language development, early learning, federal titles, student health, student counseling, and several more. What I would like to share is beyond just my resume. What I care most about is this community and the fabric that connects community and district and how they are interchangeable. When I think about service on a budget committee, I don't necessarily think about the spreadsheets first and foremost. I think about a former student of mine who is a student of yours now. Her name is Ashlyn, and she goes to Silverton High School. And I know her because of the interconnectedness of special education. And I still see her all the time when I'm driving around. She's walking her dogs. I roll down my window. I say hello. And I know that she does not understand and appreciate the difficult decisions that had to have been made, but she still tells me, and it still breaks my heart, how she lost an aide in one of her classes last year. I think about, I think about Brian Saturn, who in this district was one of the very first staff members that introduced me to the love of serving students that are highly impacted by disabilities and the decisions that we make, in this context that matter so deeply in that world. I think about Cheryl Kloffenstein, who introduced me to English language learners and how being a voice for them is often so important until they have a strong enough voice to be a voice of their own. I think about Jared Wilson and how I coach his daughter, Carson, in soccer, and he just an hour and a half ago was coaching my two little ones in Mac Club, just right over there. I think about all of the people that are connected to this district, both paid and in voluntary capacities, and how they give so much of themselves to give so much to the students of this district that desperately need adults to stand up and be their voice until they have one strong enough of their own. And I think about serving in this committee and that being my service to this community and back to them. So I am sure that everybody that's applying for and your consideration is equally deserving. And the committee would be blessed for any one of them. And I just thank you for your consideration of mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon Parkinson Montoya here. Shannon haven't seen her this evening. I don't think she's here. Shannon? Jesse Smith? Hi, Jesse.
Thanks very much for the opportunity to talk with you. I've met a couple of you before at the Silverton Grange when I was running against Tom, so if things had been different, I might be up there, but I really do appreciate the opportunity. And so my basic qualifications are I have a master's degree in business administration, many years of hands-on business experience, and the flexibility to learn something new every day. I believe I have a great work ethic and that my skills and creativity would be an asset to the budget committee team in its work. I'm passionate about ensuring a quality education for the students in our district. As a parent of two kids in the local schools, it is apparent to me how much the schools need our support. My desire to help our schools succeed has helped to motivate my own activism and involvement these past several years, from running for school board in '23 to chaperoning my kids' class field trip. Over the years, I have also worked as an educator and facilitator at OMSI in Portland, at an overseas private school, and currently as a music instructor locally. Therefore, not only is education important to me, I also have a great deal of empathy for our educators. One of the major challenges facing education here in the Silver Falls School District is the nature of the district itself. It's geographically diverse and comparatively very large relative to other districts geographically. It includes a large number of small schools in outlying areas, many of which are experiencing aging infrastructure. In several cases, the buildings do not meet basic requirements related to the ADA, earthquake safety, structural integrity. And meanwhile, The special needs students and ESL learners are chronically underserved, even in our highly rated charter schools. I personally supported the bond measure that would have addressed a lot of these issues, but a sound majority of our fellow community members believed that it was too all-inclusive in these times of inflation and economic hardship. Therefore, future budgetary proposals, any hypothetical future bond proposals, for example, also must be carefully crafted to balance competing considerations if we are to convince the public to invest in the capital improvements that will be necessary in order for the Silver Falls School District to excel in the 21st century. I recognize that the Budget Committee's duty is to help the board make difficult and potentially unpopular decisions. And I look forward to helping you do that, looking through all the numbers and talking over everything with everybody. Thanks very much. Do you have any questions? I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
And Kelly Strawn?
Hello. I think I've been here before. I was here when you were filling a position earlier this year. So I don't know that I have a lot of different things to say, but just want to remind you that my interest is as a parent in the district, and also having been at the majority of the board meetings over the last 12 plus months now, just having an appreciation for the difficult decisions that the district has had to make, and a need for listening to the community and implementing a lot of different perspectives. Can't keep everybody happy, can't do all things for all people, but I think a skill that I can bring to this committee is I'm a pretty good listener, and I have a professional background in communication and leadership education, and therefore have developed some decent skills at hearing a lot of different pieces of input from different people and synthesizing that into solutions that hopefully work the best for the most people. I was really actually enthusiastic about Kim saying that the Budget Committee might have an opportunity to meet a few more times and have an emphasis on community input, mostly because I feel like that's a skill that I can bring to the Budget Committee. And I realize that school finances are quite different than personal finances, and so that may not be the biggest thing on my resume, exposure to school finance, but I think that there could be a pretty big need for people who have good communication skills and good listening skills and the ability to listen to a lot of different perspectives. So that's what I think I could bring. If that's useful, I would love to serve.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
And Paul Thompson?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm not sure how much I want to talk about my background. A lot of it is in the application. I tried to, present my experience. One of the things I learned tonight is a lot of what I heard on the financials, PERS discussion, other things, takes me back. I spent 8+ years on the board of directors and a couple of years as the chair of the board for a charter school. Charter schools are almost a district unto themselves. They have to set their own budget. They have to deal with PERS. They have to deal with all those same issues that you deal with. I do have those years of experience dealing with it, and I was the lead for all of those years in working with our charter schools finance person in developing those budgets. Professionally, I've spent 35 years working for a government that receives federal and state revenues as well as local revenues. I manage a staff and a budget of $7+ million per year. I'm familiar again with PERS because all of those people are in PERS, including myself. I'm familiar with all of the aspects of governing and setting those budgets, setting the indirect rates, all of those things that go into those complexities. I have volunteered in my children's schools for 25 years plus. My oldest child and my youngest child are 25 years apart, so I've got lots of opportunities to be in their schools. I've volunteered in the schools here since I moved here, actually before I moved here, when my children moved here. One of the things I noticed and one of the things that really interests me in serving is that when I served in my daughter's 4th and 5th grade classes as a volunteer at Robert Frost. It was pre-pandemic. I know what the student performance was like in those years, and now my son is in 5th grade, and I've been in his 4th and 5th grade classes last year and this year. The difference in performance these 2 years is noticeably more diverse. There's a greater spread in student performance between those who are still performing well and those who fell behind presumably because of conditions imposed by the pandemic. That concerns me, and that's something I'd like to see addressed. I know the budget difficulties have added to that over the past year. I have followed these board meetings for the past couple of years online and virtually. It's going to take a while to get us back to where we need to be, but serving those children that have fallen behind is one of those things that I care about, and I've seen firsthand what's happening to them. So I appreciate you hearing me tonight and offering this opportunity. And if there's any questions.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, what I propose we do is if you'd like to have some discussion, we can have discussion if you would like that. And then what I'd like is that we have open up nominations for individuals and vote on each individual until we have 3.
But we'll do that in action items.
Yes, in action items.
So
Yeah,
discussion.
when we get down there to action items.
But we could discuss
that's-
now.
But I wanted to but we could have discussion now. But I just laying out the land here.
Is there a concrete way or a way that we're supposed to nominate, or how we do it? Because I'm always curious, like if we each did like ranked choice, and like put down and then let Debbie pick, and then those are our 3, whoever's got the most totals. I'm just curious if there's a way we're supposed to do this. Or
We could do it however we decide collectively we want to do it.
it's just very
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
It's
It is
uncomfortable, but
uncomfortable.
it's also part of our duty.
Yep.
It's, and we've had the opportunity to read the applications and their bios, and we've had the opportunity to have them here before us. And I think we owe it to them to, so to speak, suck it up and do it.
We've talked about like different ways in ranked choice. I think it's more complex, and I think Debbie would have to be a little more prepared.
Yeah, yeah.
I just have a comment, just for everyone that applied and for the folks that were able to carve out a little bit of time, just appreciate you,
Yes.
one, being willing to serve in truly really substantial way that'll have a massive impact. So again, just a thank you for being willing to put in the time.
I want to echo that, and I also want to say that I think it's going to be a bit of a difficult choice. We've got excellent applications here.
Yeah,
All 4 very capable.
yeah. So I concur with that, so. Anything else? Okay. Okay, Derek, next on the items here, I'll turn over to you. Target feedback survey.
Yeah, so hopefully be a little bit of an update. Been having some conversations about what that'll look like. I know we've had just a lot of discussion. So I kind of want to hit 4 kind of main highlights. One being kind of, again, re-discussing the participants, what method we'll use to hopefully push out the survey, the standards and questions that we'll utilize, and then touch on the timeline. So in conversations with Kim, looks like there's about 19 direct reports that she currently has. And so that would be, again, our participant pool. Hopefully we can get good feedback from them. And then we're looking at using SurveyMonkey. I've been doing a little bit of research, and I think that cost will be about $300, and so we're seeing if there is funds available to be able to do that. And I don't know if we have an update on that.
And late today, I heard from the ESD, there might be something that we could utilize through them for zero cost.
Perfect.
beautiful.
Even better.
Like that price.
So that kind of, hopefully we can make that happen. And then as far as the questions, my thought was if we go back to the workbook and the standards, it has the descriptors. My thought was using the bulk of those descriptors as the questions and then using the ranking system of the 1 through 4 with probably adding like a not observed if there's a category. So kind of over the next couple weeks, please take another look at that. If there's a specific question that you would want, get a hold of me and I can make sure it's included in there. But I thought, again, keeping it simple, something that's already established, and just using those descriptors. Any kind of pause there, any thoughts or comments on utilizing that?
I appreciate that a lot because one of my concerns just about data is, reliability and validity. And if we stick to these standards that have been already established by groups that have a lot more resources, I guess, than we do, I guess I feel a little bit better about that versus shooting from the hip on questions that we just come up with.
Okay, great.
But also I think it's important that members, if there's something that is not covered on that we would like, that we throw it out there.
So Derek, will the responses just be the ranked 1 through 4, or will it be a narrative response along with each of those?
My thought is have the 1 through 4, and then we can leave room for comments. So if someone wants to expand on it one way or the other, so we do get that feedback. I think that's a probably worthwhile option to leave that.
It's fair because everybody gets the same opportunity to answer it or not.
Right.
And then the timeline, I was looking at our original timeline for pushing this out. We had January 15th through the 31st, and then our evaluation documents were going to be kind of the period of February 1 through the 17th. I do want to suggest for if we wanted that feedback prior to our own, we might look at maybe shifting when we push out the target survey a little bit sooner, maybe that January 1 to January 15th or whenever we get back from kind of the holiday break. So maybe, I think it's the 4th, so maybe.
Yeah, I could.
I don't have it in front of me right.
To the 6th.
I think it's the 6th there.
The 6th.
Yeah, let me check real quick.
So that would be the only, I think,
I would,
change on if there's thought or input on that.
I would say that too, especially, and since we have the questions pretty well in line already.
I think earlier might be better in case we've got to
Yep.
shake the tree a bit and,
Okay.
because administrators are busy and
Yep.
we might have to remind.
Okay, well, that's helpful. That gives me kind of marching orders, so I'll work over the next couple weeks getting that all solidified. I don't know if we need to make the change in action item or not, because we did approve the evaluation, so that might be something. I think we're probably fine.
I think that
Okay.
on something minor like that, yeah.
Teachers come back in on, it looks like, the 7th. Nope, they come in on the 6th. Teacher work day on the
Service
6th.
day on
The
the
6th.
Yeah, and then kids are back on the 7th
Okay.
of January. That seems really late.
All right, we'll make that adjustment and get to work.
Okay.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you
Yep.
very
Thanks, Derek.
much. A lot of work, I know.
Yep.
Okay, now we have second reads on policies, and then what appreciate if we just go down, just call each one out, and if there's any comment or concern after looking at the updated, otherwise they'll end up appearing in our third read. So on the AC non-discrimination, does anyone have a concern or comment? Okay, moving on, BBF, Board Member Standards of Conduct. Anyone, everybody fine with the revisions been made there? Okay, BBF, FC, reporting of suspected abuse of child. All good? Okay. CB, superintendent. It's there. CBG, evaluation of superintendent. CCG, evaluation of administrators.
I got one, Phil.
Okay.
And so Anthony, I think this, you can help me here. I'm struggling on this one. The sample policy that OSBA has, or they're saying we have to, we can't change this. This is essentially, is this an AR? I mean, it's referencing an OAR, but the reason on this one I struggle with is because the footnotes and what it links it to, like I am not comfortable, me personally, of evaluating my administrators with the ELCC standards. I don't want to judge KJ on those standards. And so do we have to take this as it is, or can we change it?
So this is required policy from OSBA.
Because I'm not going to dive into any further if it's pointless.
So say that again, Joe?
I don't want to like dive into any further if it's pointless. Like there's no changes we can make to this.
It's based on state law, and it's technically not you evaluating them, it's me doing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't want administrators really being evaluated on those standards. Personally, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I get it. We talked about this last time. It is a required policy. I don't think there's a lot, I mean, there's not a lot we probably can do to adjust that, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, it's a process that has to happen. It's, and according to the standards that are put in place, they are the adopted standards of the State Board of Education. And until those change, that doesn't mean though that also that within the standards setting process that the superintendent or any administrator who also is supervising other administrators can, as part of the developmental process, the goal setting process and whatnot, develop specific goals that may enhance on any of these items.
Mm-hmm.
So there are ways to also look at the, I guess what I would call it too is a natural evolution in the standards and the way we expect our administrators to perform. But this would be the standards that the state board would expect us to do. And again, as those change and if they change, we would come back to you with, a recommendation to amend or adopt this as needed.
Yeah, we would update it. I think at this point, I mean, I don't know if this makes you feel any better, but, I gave you my stance last time about this, and, I think that socio-political context that we've talked about, and you heard me tonight, I think that, just what we put out on the election shows you that, we're not trying to push one agenda over another. We're trying to make sure that education fits all of our kids and that we're serving all kids to the best of our ability. And so when you think about an administrator and their ability to navigate the socio-political context, I think a lot of that means, are they able to understand that nuance, and can they help teachers understand that? And can they help all kids feel welcome in the building? Mm-hmm. And I think in reality, I hope you trust me enough that you can say, Kim will make sure the administrators do a good job of that. And, I don't see it as a huge issue, and I think it's something we can't really move off of at this point. So.
No, I appreciate it. It's not, my concern's not with you, Kim.
I know.
It's like, when I read this, I'm like, man, I'd really like to have an emphasis. Did attendance go up for these kids? 1 year was here, this person comes in and changes the culture of a building, and grades go up, graduation rates go up, kids' participation rates, discipline goes down. Whatever the metrics would be for like a happy building, and so I appreciate it.
And I think that, when we're talking about building our strategic plan, I think it's really important that, our strategic plan work with these principles, these other principles that we have that guide our buildings and our policy and our practice. Like, all those things have to be cohesive and kind of congruent and work together. And I think that, you know, building a really strong strategic plan that doesn't just sit up on a shelf, that is a living, working document like we used to have in the district, is really going to be essential to our success and how we move forward and how we move past this difficult time that we've had. And so I think there are some things that we're doing that will, you know, help ease that burden. But I think that, you know, building a good building culture is really, really an important part of being a principal. Yeah.
We good then? Okay. DJC, bidding requirements. My words getting late. My words right.
So if I may interject on this one.
Yes.
Please, Phil. There is on this policy as recommended by OSBA, even in their recommendation, there is a choice that needs to be made at the top of this policy. And the copy that you have in your packet does have our internal notes on that we would recommend the first option, as that aligns with the current policy. And that states that you, as our school board, are the local contract review board, and that we are not adopting our own set of procurement rules, but instead will follow the state procurement and contracting rules. But that would be something that we would need the board's guidance if you would like your third read to reflect that selection, or if the board is choosing to want
You have to make
to make your
choice.
own rules.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Option one.
Yeah.
Option one.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
be
see,
clear.
that's my interpretation when I read that before was
Yes.
that's what I was assuming, but it's always good not to assume. that
I-
That's what.
Assumptions can definitely get us, so.
And,
Yes.
so, yes.
So it is in that first section, as
Yeah.
well as on page 3 of that same policy. It would be our recommendation that we keep the brackets at the end, that this policy also aligns with the DJCAR, which you'll be discussing next.
Right, okay.
Um,
Good.
Does anybody have any problem with what Kim covered there?
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and last but not least, DJCAR. Okay, the changes there will be reflected from the other. All right. Second time for public comment. This time it's deals with action items, discussion and action items, excuse me. Do we have anyone here, public comment? Anyone online?
We have no hands raised online at this time.
Okay. And now I'll entertain nominations for individuals to be on the budget committee.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Creighton Helms.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved in second to nominate Creighton Helms for the budget committee. All those in favor, aye?
Should we
Aye.
discuss?
Opposed?
We should probably
Point of order.
discuss.
Oh, okay. Point of order. We'll cancel out that vote. And Jennifer's not wrong. Discussion concerning?
I agree, and I mean, I have no reservations. He did a great job the last time, and his resume is quite impressive.
Yeah, my opinion is his depth of experience, specifically in school finance, and as Josh said, he's been an excellent representative in the past. I just think in my opinion, he's a great candidate.
Slam dunk.
Any other discussion? Okay, now we'll have a vote. All those in favor of Creighton Helm being placed on the budget committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nays? None. Okay,
I'd like to nominate Kelly Strong.
Second.
been moved in second to nominate Kelly Strawn for the budget committee. Discussion?
Kelly's been involved in a long time. coming to a lot of meetings, asking a lot of questions. I think she applied last time. While she may not have the resume or the background, I don't think that's somebody why a reason we should exclude people. I think she can probably offer a perspective and cover some spots that could be very valuable to the committee as a whole. So that's my thinking behind it.
Yeah, I think Kelly brings a great perspective. She's been traveling with, following along with our board meetings and been present at many of the meetings and engaged with several of us as board members, asking questions, bringing forth solutions. And I always appreciate her perspective.
Yep. Same. Kelly's a team player. She is active and wants to create solutions.
Yeah, I'll be in support of Kelly as well. She's been, like I said, engaged and clearly cares about the kids in this community, this district.
I think the one overriding thing, about three of you have mentioned it, and that's what impressed me in communications that she's had with the board and everything. She doesn't just point out a problem, she always has a solution for the problem, and generally not just one. She'll have multiple solutions for the same problem, so I appreciate that. So.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of Kelly Strawn, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Kelly Strawn's on the, we need one more.
I'd like to nominate Paul Thompson.
Second.
It's been moved and second to nominate Paul Thompson for the Budget Committee. Discussion?
I think the things that Paul decided to bring to us tonight were really key. Like, well, I had already read your application, so you didn't need to go over that again. Thank you. It was, using some really great judgment. And the things that you notice resonate with me. I can tell, that you have been in those classrooms and see the same things that I see. And I do know that your charter school governance experience has brought a wealth of knowledge and skill in navigating things. So I really appreciate that.
I appreciate Paul's discussion about it's numbers and spreadsheets we get into, but it's about the kids, and that's a big part of why this is why we're here, right? And so having that always as the lens we're looking through in every decision and what we have to do, and especially over the last year plus in the budget committee and even into this next year is going to be very difficult, but always keeping the kids front and center. So I appreciate that perspective that Paul brought.
I think the two things that really resonated with me just today in the application are experience and passion. They're both very clear. The experience is there and the passion for finding solutions and your passion for helping our young people, crystal clear.
And we do need people with substantial experience in budgets and understanding the budgetary process and the funding of schools, and that was clear from his resume that he's got that experience to bring to the table as well.
Any further discussion? Good. Okay. All those in favor of Paul Thompson for the Budget Committee? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Paul Thompson's on the budget. So congratulations, Creighton, Kelly, and Paul, members of the Budget Committee. Okay. Any future agenda item request?